again, you guys, for being here. Obviously, we are here to celebrate Tijera Williams. She is our solo artist for this month. She is an incredible person, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear more about her work tonight. And we have our lovely host, Robin Robbins.
And when I say we're a communal art space, we share leadership in this space. Everyone has their hands involved in this pot, and we all lead and listen to each other. So I'm very grateful for the Hill Street Country Club team that we have grown in the last 9 years. Something very special about this year with exhibitions, I decided that it would be best as a curator for us to focus on representation, and not just representation as identity, like yes, you have a Black body in the space, but how we are allowed to take up space and be our vulnerable selves and be honest and live with endless boundaries when it comes to creating art for ourselves and projecting it out into the universe. So this year is very special. Every artist that is participating in solo exhibitions is representing themselves as an individual, as a person of color, as a person who has activism in their heart and their voice. So this is a very special, this is our first solo show of 21, and Tijera really, I saw her Instagram. The minute I saw it, I was like, I need to curate her. I'm curious. I want to learn from her and unlearn with her. So I'm really excited about this experience that you guys are about to encounter. I'm glad that we have someone new who just happened to link up with me and comes from Minnesota, and an Emmy award-winning broadcaster, Robin Robinson from Minnesota, but now a North County resident. So I'm going to pass the mic to her and allow her to introduce herself and start the conversation and the exhibition. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dinah, and thank you to everybody with Hill Street Country Club. I feel very honored to be accepted into the SoCal North County community, and so warmly. Dinah, I reached out to her and she's been amazing. I feel that I can share with her, and I think this is going to be an evening of real sisterhood, and I love this gallery for being a real sister experience.
I don't think we can both be on.
So on it, I think it's important for us to kind of just really get a little bit of background about Tijera. I'm just going to delve in. My experience is multi-purpose. It has been TV. It's been as art director at MSP Airport. It's been as an art consultant here, Santa Fe, and Minneapolis. So to me, it's more important to really kind of highlight who Tijera is for everybody. I'm just so blown away. She's a young woman with tremendous, tremendous power. A multimedia painter, a photographer, a design artist. I'm sure she has a lot of followers in LA. She does traditional techniques, painting and drawing, but then marries it with a lot of color, and really revises this male-oriented gaze, this Eurocentric gaze at Black women, and really creates work that stress the importance of being an advocate for victims. And so I think this conversation is going to be really revelatory for all of us. And so I'm just going to ask everybody to take a breath, because we're going to ask folks during the Q&A to really share with each other and be open and honest, because this work is so open and honest. Let's get started and really just talk about why, this work is so raw, so vulnerable. It is just vulnerable. And I'm trying to find out why you chose to open yourself up in this way so publicly, Tijera, because it is a very, very revealing look at who you are.
Yeah, I don't really understand why I did either. But at the same time, I think that's just how I started with art. I can go as far back from kindergarten when I knew I wanted to be an artist. Passing through school, I have friends to this day that knew yeah, she's gonna be an artist. Through college, I literally fought tooth and nail to get my bachelor's degree. And yeah, I just think throughout the time frame, I just knew that I wanted to be an artist. And the only thing I could connect with was myself. I started to see, like, I guess the science of why is it that we publicly praise white art? Why do we publicly praise Eurocentric features? And I look nothing like that, and I praise it. And I figured that something was wrong with that. And the least I could do is, switch that out or make it for me, make it for other little Black boys and girls. So when they come up, they can go, oh, okay, people praise that, but they praise me as well. And when I started to make the work, things were happening. It became really emotional, and I suffered through a lot of emotional trauma. And I found myself working through that, and the work became what I focus in and what I'm living. So every piece is is real. It's real. It's about a real marriage that, broke on its own in the middle of a pandemic, and dealing with those feelings and the thoughts of, potentially the future or the past, or just enjoying right now. So
we're going to really delve into that, but I know you're also an activist and you care about victims and trauma. So I'm going to ask you to go into the moment of silence that you requested for us to hold this evening. Thank you. This part I'm really excited about because a virtual reality gallery is very exciting. Astrid, if we can go into the gallery and see Tijera's work and really get a real sense of what she was talking about, her really kind of exposing herself and how she's been on this process of healing. Let's talk a little bit about that. What you're doing is very cathartic, and it's coming from an approach that it's not one that most people really consider. You're healing through this lens of reshaping this Renaissance image of women into Black women. Talk a little bit about that.
I just think mostly about, throughout my studies, how, like I touched on before, the beauty of skin, the beauty of complexion, all that a woman offers. And that conversation, when woman is referred to, it's never Black woman. Because as soon as you say Black woman, the context changes. It immediately, you're filled with, what you were taught, whether it was a racist thought, a terrible opinion, history books deciding to skip over what a Black woman really means, being a Black woman really means. And I really just can't stand the separation of that. And the same goes for anything Black art, Black food, Black families, everything. It's completely different. And I would love to change the stigma, but at the same time of both changing it, I want to challenge it. And let's, pretty much accept the fact that we may never get it to the point where art can just be art. I actually love being a Black artist and love having my art be titled as Black art.
And you call this a love song, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. This has been a labor of love when it came down to thinking of the piece, to how I make the piece. It's a process over and over, like singing a song in the shower, that feeling of just falling in love with yourself, even the bits that you're not really accepting of. This quarantine has really helped me see that every day. So
let's take a quick tour, and Astrid's going to kind of guide us around the gallery. I'd like to try to move into some of the images that kind of express that personal, physical vulnerability, by showing your shape, showing your body, showing your form. It's really an issue for a lot of women to, this body dysmorphia we have because how we're told how we should look or how we're criticized because of the way that we look.
Right. Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit more about these images and how you shot them and why you put them in this context?
Yes. So for myself, true stigma, I used to run track in high school, and I'm Black, so I have some curves, I'm shapely, and I just remember being like, it was beat into my head over and over. You have to be this weight, you have to be this number, you have to look this way. If you have rolls or extra anything on your body, you can't be fast, you can't succeed, you can't meet that goal. And I applied that same concentration into everything. It's kind of competitive, but at the same time, it's an isolated form of competition because it's just with me. Yeah. So when I gained this weight and my body changed pretty much in 2017, I never let it go. And for the longest time, I was very shy, not very outward and open, and look at me when it came to the weight gain, because to be honest, I was very ashamed. I felt like I failed, like I wouldn't be able to win another race because I'm not in shape. I'm afraid to go to the doctor because I don't want them to tell me that, I only have a certain amount of years left to live because of this weight. But when I think of the work, the weight has nothing to do with it. In matter of fact, it makes it stronger. It has everything to do with it. And it became more powerful when I decided to go, you know what? I'm terrified, terrified to do this, but no one else is going to do it. And I wake up every day, and instead of like running past the mirror in the morning, I don't stay too long, but I thank my body. I thank it for what it's given me. I thank it for allowing me to do the things that I'm able to do. And I hope every day other people do the same thing. Of course, I want to work out, I want to be healthy, and I do maintain, to still stay healthy as best I can, but beating myself up over, having extra anything, it shouldn't be a bad thing. So I think it's definitely going to stay in my work.
I think it also kind of flips the historic lens on Black women too. We've often just been seen as chattel, as a body, and being exposed like that for people to just view. But you take it and you empower yourself and expose yourself in a very open way that really does challenge people to kind of think about how they're looking at your body, challenge you to really think about the historic aspects of Black women exposing their bodies as well.
Absolutely. There was a shift, honestly. When I first started doing photography, I couldn't even focus a camera, which is crazy to go from that to this in a matter of maybe 3 years. Yeah. So when I, decided to go through with this subject matter, my professors didn't really know how to critique it. Because on one end, they're saying this is strong work, but not looking me fully in the eye because my nude body is right in front of them and I'm clothed and a professional, like, yeah, critique it because I'm the subject. So what are you going to say? I worked through it with Dinah a lot and realizing that they were shy. They were very afraid to combat this and confront it because it wasn't, beach art or a picture of a forest. Like, this is something that is a real discussion. And I took that as a sign to not pursue it. So all of this work, or most of this work, is brand new because I got that fire lit under me and telling me that, no, actually, you should be doing this instead of aspiring to be a beach artist, which it didn't work out for me.
Yeah. Who is the brave brother in these pieces that worked with you?
He is my husband. We are separated now, but
now this is the powerful part, that you kind of really went there and talked about this, but then also got him to work through this trauma with you. How did you do that?
At first, it started as a homework assignment. Again, like, oh babe, just take these photos. He was like, this is weird. I don't know what I'm doing. And over time, and I'll probably point out which one was the first photo that he truly helped me with. But going forward, it just became like, it was kind of like, we're going to the store, babe, we got to go to the store. It became a chore, a labor of love, a usual habit. We would shoot every day. So I have hundreds of photos of us together, and he never was really there for the editing process. He just kind of knew when I said, tilt your head like this, he'd do it. He also acts. So when I said, hey, let's try and pretty much act as ourselves, it wasn't that hard. So it became its own love song and something that we could do together. Of course, I wasn't expecting it to take the turn that it did outside of the artwork, but we're still talking about potentially collaborating in the future, because I mean, I'm his photographer and he's my model. So that
much praise to you, sister, honestly. Did he see you in a different light after this, as you put the exhibition together? Has he said anything to you about, wow, I didn't really understand how deep this was, this trauma, and we went through this together at a very weird time with COVID? What was his response?
He actually didn't give me one. A lot of this was brought about due to infidelity. And we were having lots and lots of conversations about what this means for us, not only as friends or co-workers, essentially working on these pieces, but I mean, even as like a married couple, when I started to have the shows and, put myself out there, I have a photo that is on my website called Birth of a Black Woman, and I'm fully exposed as, Venus. The response I got from that shifted my entire atmosphere as far as when it came to work. People didn't really, I didn't get fluff. If someone wanted to work with me, it was very straightforward. They knew what was going to happen. But I don't know, I guess in our dynamic, we never looked at it like, oh, this is what this means. We knew what it was behind closed doors, like this is what's inspiring it. So we actually never talked about it. I would pretty much just make the piece, didn't want to look at it again. We just keep shooting.
I do want to talk about you mentioned the Venus piece, and then the Renaissance pieces too. We do have an Astrid, thank you. Let's go from this piece that we're showing right now to the Renaissance pieces. But let's talk about the piece that's up right now. It's multiple people in the bedroom, and really, what is that trying to convey?
So this was inspired by an argument that we actually had the prior night. We are separated, so he officially, I live alone now. And before that discussion, it was a good night. We spent time together watching TV, being friends essentially. And I just thought about every time that, some cat was let out the bag. Essentially, it was always told in our bed. The most sacred place in a marriage was always in our bed. And I just remember having these moments where I can't sleep, I'm restless, I'm ready to do anything that it takes to make my marriage work, and visibly, and physically disgruntled by the situation, and he's peacefully asleep. So
yeah.
Wow.
I think there's a lot of people who are watching that, this grabs for the heart, it grabs from the emotion. We've all been in situations where, that slap in the face, that shock, and then having to work through those emotions. Do I stay? Do I go? And now I got to go to bed with this too. It's so powerful. Let's go to another one of the pieces that really show the influences that you have and how you are rocking this patriarchy, this white patriarchy, on how they see Black women, and really forcing them to take a new gaze at Black women and deal with us from a position of power from their background.
Absolutely. I was obviously inspired by, you know, the famous artists, this historical references to Vermeer, Girl with a Pearl Earring. And I felt like when you look at the painting, I mean, first off, it's a painting, it's magnificent. But to me, you don't really see something like that that just says beauty for a woman when it comes to being a Black woman. Like, there's no like girl with pearl earring of a Black woman.
Right.
And through my studies, aside from honestly studying African art, where everything is Black, everything is straight Black, like there's nothing white about it.
Yeah.
Trying to transition that to, I guess, an Americanized or, you know, diet form, there's nothing that says that better than this. So I decided to, you know, take the pose, and I decided to get all nice and dolled up because I feel very confident when I wear makeup. And I just thought about what is something that every Black woman can relate to. And for me, it's that feeling, even with short hair, when I have my bonnet on, I'm invincible. Like, don't talk to me once I've gotten off work and I've come home, taken my bra off and put that bonnet on. It's a done deal. I'm not going back outside. And at the same time, you know, hoop earrings, that's just pillar of fashion, you know, the impact of Black culture. And it's just, I'd prefer hoops over studs.
Yeah.
And, you know, in transition of learning about myself, I took a 23andMe test and found out my lineage. I am 83% African, and the rest, or the predominant chunk, is like British and French.
Mm-hmm.
So in knowing more of myself, I can clearly disown the pieces that I don't, you know, relate to, and own the things that I do. So I am.
Was that in with the patterns in the skirt, the African is that what you were saying there?
Yes.
Yeah.
So instead of, you know, a classic Dutch, you know, handmade accoutrement, like wear that the girl in the painting is wearing, I'm wearing my, you know, natural, based off my lineage accoutrement, and modernized it a bit as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you are exploring subject matters that we all talk about amongst ourselves. But 21st century artists, current artists such as yourself, are not afraid to go beyond the whisper or aside over something to drink with your girls. You know, it's remarkable that you are so comfortable to challenge these things and challenge them out loud. This is one, let's go back, Astrid, a little bit, because that one just blows me away. Let's talk about this because, you know, everybody has that grandma that has the Last Supper and velvet up on their walls, or with the eyes that move around. This is just so amazingly powerful, so very feminist. Talk about a little bit about this piece, please.
So in 2018, like I said, I got started basically with an assignment. The assignment was to make a photo book. And like I said, all semester, excuse my French, I bullshitted through the class trying to pass. I was like openly failing. I was the one Black girl. Everyone's like, oh, here's the assignment. I was the only Black person in the class. And they would go, okay, Tijera, let's see your work. And they knew it was going to be like, oh, out of focus, or my thumb was in it. And it was really bad. So when the time came to do a photo book, it's like, I am not failing this class, and I need to go with what I know. And this was what I knew. But without having models at this time, I also didn't introduce my husband in any of the work yet. This was my very first piece. And I just thought, how cool would it be if instead of doing the disciples, I did the last, the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
And someone has to facilitate, this rowdy bunch. Why not virtue, all of the virtues just in one? And the audience is the viewer or the creator, and they're facing judgment. So essentially, it's like a trial, and the creator is going to decide what happens to me, us. But the only way they're going to decide is based off of the sins that were used or the sins that were experienced and the one virtue. So we're pretty outnumbered. And it also ties back into like historical art figures. A lot of altars were presented in triptych style, so 3 paintings, and they're huge. And most of them reflected on like the idea of Garden of Eden. So there's heaven and it's beautiful and everything is just sanctified and golden. And then there's earth, which is just an orgy of sin. And then hell, which is an orgy of sin on fire. So I just thought about, presenting that in a way that was kind of quirky. I didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
So I had never used Photoshop before up until this moment. So
Wow.
yeah, this is all like very new to me at the time. And yeah, it's one of my favorite pieces.
Let's take another move around Astrid and take another look at one and stop right here. Let's talk about these pieces right here. I'm sure people are asking why is it inverted? What does it mean? Let's talk about both these pieces with the saints and with the inverted images of men.
So the picture on the left is called Danye Jones. It is named after Danye Jones. He was the son of an activist in Ferguson. I made this piece right after the news of his lynching was, in the news. It wasn't that big, but based off of like outside, you'll see in the gallery of the names of actually 1,000 people who were murdered by police between 2009 and 2019. And specifically on this day, I believe in the photography class, we were talking about the importance or the power of fruit in photography. And I was so upset when Michael Brown was murdered. I was in sculpture class and we were making pinch pots. And if those of you don't know, they're little pots that you pinch, basically meaningless objects.
Basic 101.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So.
people are so excited and they're living lives and they feel like this is great. And I'm like, you don't understand that I don't have the luxury to pinch a pot and talk about a damn fruit when people like me are dying.
Yeah.
For Danye specifically, in the report, it was stated that cops said that he hung himself. He had a bag over his head and hung himself on the tree outside. His mother had to come home and see her son hanging in their backyard. And that infuriated me. So this is when I had to get my husband into pieces because I felt like the work that I could do as a Black woman, similar to the life that I live as a Black woman, completely different, although similar, but completely different from the scrutiny of what it is to be a Black man. And yeah, it was so nice to come up with this piece. It felt like I could breathe for just a moment and understand, like, there weren't too many Black people on Cal State Long Beach's campus. There are 4% Black, which actually meant me and maybe another Black person if I wanted to talk to them or if I wasn't afraid, because artists were on an isolated part of the campus. So it really was just nice to know, like, when a person of color, Black person, brown person, anyone who saw my pieces on campus or, here on out, I would get so many comments like, wow, you knew what I was thinking, or wow, I feel that completely, or thank you. And I would just get hugs and just, this praise for something that I thought was a moment of me letting out my fury, my rage over, a situation. Right. And it felt good to know that we were a community of people who felt this way. Now, all we need to do is, get this resolved and prevent it from happening any further.
You can almost hear Billie Holiday singing when you see this piece. And, when you think about the strange fruit that hangs from Black people's trees. You know, we suffer so much that the pain is generational, and it is something that is so deep that people don't often share that trauma. They tuck it away, they hide it away. For you to be open about it allows people to heal along with you. And I do believe that's your goal, right?
Absolutely. Drawing emotion I feel is the greatest thing on earth. It ties a lot of reasoning into situations like, oh, why did I make that choice? Because I was afraid. Why did I decide to marry a man at 21? Because I was in love.
Yeah.
You know, why do I have this connection to food? Because it tastes so good and it makes me feel. And I
Yeah.
feel like art should make you feel instead of just not only being beautiful. It should have a message. It should be beautiful, and it should make you feel some type of way. Always, always. If it doesn't do those three things, I'm not going to say it's not art, but it's not going to be my art.
This next photo that you took, again with the Photoshop and adding all the different images, talk about how you came to this, because this touches everybody where they live, how they feel spiritually, how they feel as a Black person, Black man, Black woman. Tell us a little bit about it.
So this piece is called Adore You, Sweet Jesus. And it is based off of, as I just recently touched on, about being in love with my husband. I was so excited to go against statistics and become a Black married couple. I was married at 21, and I wanted and still want to stay married for as long as I possibly can and challenge the norm. But at the same time, and I'm sure we've all been guilty of it one way or another, man on man, man on woman, woman on woman relationship, all the way throughout, non-binary essentially, we start to lose ourselves and place worldly things, whether they're our spouses or food or TV, we place things over ourselves to the point where it's no longer an adoration, it's obsession. Yeah. And I could feel myself obsessing over my husband, which made it so hard when I found out that he fell from grace in our marriage. It was so hard I'm still trying to learn to accept it. And I just thought about the connection after having a conversation with Dinah about that relationship between what a woman has to a man, and being taught how Eve was born from the rib and of earth from the man. And she was only here to potentially just be his helpmate. So Eve wasn't born to be herself. She wasn't born to be her own individual. So in this sense, I also look at it like the relationship with Mary and Jesus. Throughout the Annunciation, the Lamentation, and the Crucifixion paintings, so essentially like the arrival of Jesus, the death, murder of Jesus, and the moment he's taken off the cross, there are so many poses of Mary only focusing on him. So much so that there's blood and dirt, and there are like 5, 6, 7 people just reaching to grab her son, and all she cares about is him. She could be hanging off a cliff and all she wants is him. So I thought the same for myself in this situation. But like I said, it has to be beautiful. It has to be christened with this moment of just like a gasping moment. It's just, oh yeah, it's so powerful to connect to that moment.
It's crazy powerful, because I think a lot of sisters, depending on your age and where you grew up, there's a lot of church that is tied into the symbolism of your husband. And I remember taking a class years ago, and it was a Christian marriage class. And the professor actually said, well, you serve your husband like you serve Jesus Christ.
Right.
And so it just blows my mind that, here we are in the 21st century and we're still wrestling with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy. May she rest in peace. I know she is so happy with Jehovah. My great aunt, my big mama, right after we got married, right after we jumped the room, she came up to me and my husband and said, "How does it feel to be grown?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I had just turned 21 10 days earlier. So I'm thinking, oh,
I am grown. What are you?
Like, no, how does it feel to be grown, a grown woman? you have a home, you have a man, you know, you're developed now. No one can tell you anything. How does that feel? And I didn't know what to do
Yeah.
with that question. I felt taken aback. It's like, have I not accomplished so much before this?
Yeah.
I didn't understand it, but to this day, it still shows that those principles are instilled in everyone and they're still being passed down. So
Yes.
still trying to navigate how to get through that.
Yeah. Well, let's look at the next piece, because again, this also deals with these Raphaelite images and a sister kind of domineering the whole image.
Absolutely. This piece is called The Last Judgment. This was also one of the pieces that I included in the book. And I'm not sure if everyone knows now, I got an A in that class. So this is inspired by the Pietà, which is basically the moment after Christ is taken off of the cross and his limp body is, you know, disheveled and before he's buried essentially. And Mary is weeping over him. At the same time that I'm thinking about this pose and how famous it is, it's been created and crafted through sculpture, through, I'm not really sure about photography, but definitely like frescoes and paintings all throughout history. I thought about, what about that moment when a Black boy is killed? Are we doing that for Black children outside? Most likely not. And then I also thought about that moment of, is this how we transcend into hell? You know, we were never, oh, they died peacefully in their sleep, or it was ripe old age, essentially. It was pretty much they were stolen.
Yeah.
You know, like they're taken from living a strong, healthy breath to sudden death, and they have no control over it. So
I also see though that, you know, it takes the emphasis off of the Christ figure, the Black male figure, and really does focus similarly on what Mary's trauma is, what the woman's trauma is, focusing on her moment of ascension, basically spiritual ascension, as this death, this crime, this trauma has happened, how she ascends.
Absolutely.
And especially with the lighting, that lighting, that spotlighting on her in this moment.
I really appreciate it. I'm like so happy, honestly. Like I said, when I made most of these pieces, I got no critique other than, oh, that's cool. So
Yeah.
like, what does that mean? But yeah, I am so proud of the work that I did in the past and going forward. And it presented a difficulty for me because to just come out swinging like that,
Yeah.
I almost expected that I had to stay in this box. I had to stay in the norm of, well, when you start a trend, you have to keep with the trend.
Right.
But trends do evolve. And I found that at the same time of working on these staged presentations, I also wanted to, you know, tie that in with physical comfort and what's going on physically at home.
Yeah.
So much of my apartment is in my new work, as a sense of connecting. Like, this is, art is being made every day in my life. It's not just a staged painting that's held in suspense for that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just absolutely magnificent work, and I'm sure people are just like, how does she come up with these concepts? The last piece we're going to take a look at is this the Birth of Venus? Or no, this is this magnificent piece that, I mean, this is so mind-blowing. When you see it, it takes your breath away. Let's talk about this, because I mean, the amount of work that went into this, the poses, I mean, the lighting, the shading, the colors, it's just absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. This piece is called Le Viol de l'Innocence, which translated is the rape of innocence. It is inspired by rape and sexual assault. I am a victim of sexual assault, and I never got that deep into it with my work. I never touched it. Very similar to when I, you know, had that happen, you know, I never ever navigated it. After it had happened, I had informed my mother about it, and I did go through art therapy. And there was a moment, and throughout college as well, I had found that the brain has a way of suppressing trauma with either other trauma or things that can help you disassociate. For me,
Yes.
things that have to do with the color Black, I immediately can disassociate. I ended up throwing away all of my art therapy, you know, pieces about this situation. But when the time came to talk about, you know, what the show title is, what this show is about, leaving a voyage, a journey from sin, because sin is the reason why I'm here,
Right,
born out
right.
of wedlock. Sin is the reason why this piece is here, from rape, from another man's sin, you know, from divorce or infidelity, from another man's sin, my choice to stay in the sin and be gluttonous. All of these things, sin is what encapsulates this. And my innocence had nothing to do with it. It was stolen.
Yeah.
So I just thought about the nightmares and all of the trauma that I've been enduring from this one moment, and taking that into a physical form. A lot of the poses, honestly, are from a nightmare that I've had, where I'm going through a hallway and there are lists of doors. And I keep going through these doors, and each door is a trauma. And I'm pulling the door back to the point where I fall back into another room, and now I can't get out. So I'm scraping through, the door disappears. It's a terrible nightmare. And this just keeps happening over and over and over. And the same nightmare has happened for the past 15 years. So it was very easy to go, oh, I know that pose.
Yeah.
And instead of me falling out, not knowing where I'm going, now there's different forms of me trying to save myself, because that's a thing you can't do in your dream.
Right.
When you have like night terrors, essentially, and sleep paralysis, you can't wake yourself up. Your demons are kind of just chilling in the room while you're stuck,
Wow.
you know, terrified. So yeah, like this is just a moment of it happening. The initial pose, the center pose, is related to a sculpture by Bernini, which is the rape of Proserpina, which essentially how this comes about as well. Proserpina was the daughter of Zeus and his wife, and she was by a pomegranate tree, and Hades wanted to take her as his wife. She didn't want to be married to him. And Hades, or Poseidon, essentially, it translates different for Greek and Roman history.
Correct, yeah.
But Zeus and Hades had this agreement that he could take Proserpina as long as there is a season, or spring, essentially, a moment when she can come back to visit. So that is how the seasons came about. Right, every time that she visits, and every month that she, or every, you know, season that she isn't here, it's hell on earth. Summer, hot, extreme cold, and this transition from, you know, autumn and things like that. So
yeah, I heard, the version I heard was, you know, that she could come back, she had to come back to hell all the time by the number of pomegranate seeds she ate.
Right.
And then her mother, in her grief, just let the earth go bare. You know, a woman's grief is a powerful thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This also has a lot of, as you explained it, Dante-ish, Inferno-ish aspects to it, a living hell.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought of it as, you know, the stages of grief and the moments of pain, these full moments. And it was very hard to have my husband in the form, because I didn't want to associate him with pain, which, you know, ties to the other pieces where he is the force, he's the reason for the pain.
He is the pain, yeah.
So most of it is me trying to save myself, and the focus is rarely him in this piece. So it is one of my favorites as well. All of them are my favorite, but this is definitely one of my favorites.
It's outstanding. Astrid, is there one more? let's do that. And then we're going to get into the Q&A because there's been folks that have had their hands up for forever, and we understand why. You definitely have a lot of questions. And we're going to ask folks to raise their hands so that we can make sure that Tijera can answer them properly. It's not just a bunch of rush things in the chat. You know, this is an amazingly open conversation, and we hope that everybody understands that and is open as well. Last piece we're going to move into, or can we combine the last few pieces together?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
So the
let's
piece
see.
on the right
Mhm.
is called Devorándome, or Devouring Myself. It is inspired by Francisco Goya's Saturn devouring his son.
Yes.
A lot of the pieces are, I mean, Goya is one of my favorites. And he had this very dark series of pieces where
Yes.
they were just murals in his house. He had died due to depression, so I believe it was suicide. And when they went to recover the body, they see all of these works. And one of the most famous pieces was, you know, Saturn devouring his son.
Yeah.
The quick myth about it, Saturn found a prophecy that one of his children was going to overthrow him and become, you know, the most powerful god, and yada, yada. So out of fear and straight mania, he ate all of his kids. The one child that did not die, did not get consumed, became Zeus. And he is known as the most powerful, you know, god ever in mythology.
Right.
So I thought about it in a sense, and this is actually one of the earlier pieces. I thought about the mania of what it meant to exist with the trauma that I have, and not telling people, and being embarrassed, and going outside with one face and coming home and dealing with the other, terrified to go to sleep. Yeah, and this piece was just brought about.
And eating your pain.
Yeah.
So then we go to the beginning, which really kind of everybody would think this is harmonious and lovely and wedding shots, but it's born from something much deeper.
Right. So this piece on the right is called Forever Doesn't Last Forever. And it is pretty much what 2020 has been for my marriage. We got all dolled up, and that was a really emotional shoot. But it was a mixture of embracing and remembering the day that we got married and how powerful it was. We had a backyard wedding under his grandfather's tree in the middle of Compton.
Wow. That's some Black love.
Yeah, it was an amazing day. I mean, of course, now I know things happen that nothing goes perfect on a wedding day. Nothing. But one thing that was that we both were there. We made it. We jumped the broom. And I'll always be grateful for that day. And just thinking that, you know, on one side of this, you can see the love there. You can see how ain't nothing changed, you know?
Yeah.
But then the other, it's just like, I don't understand how nothing can be so separate, but so together at the exact same time, you know? Like that absence of how could you leave me when we're here together. This is the one perfect thing about this marriage, is that we're in it. So I still think it'll last, but in opening up and, you know, being honest, very super raw honest about, you know, my marriage and the status of what it is, I have to accept the fact that it may not last forever.
Yeah. As we look at one of the last pieces, you know, we talked about healing, and this is your therapy, but you also talked about some really interesting ways that you're healing. I think other people can relate to these because they are very, very much in all of our little COVID holes right now. You talked about Jasmine Sullivan getting you through this.
Yes. Oh my God. I am such a huge fan. Oh my goodness. My first encounter with her, I was 12 years old. Fearless had just come out, and my estranged father was like, oh, you gonna listen to this. We went to Washington, D.C. And my dad at the time was living in Atlanta. So we drove from Atlanta all the way to Washington, D.C. I am not lying to you.
Oh my
All we
goodness.
listened to was Fearless and Jaheim. I was like, if I don't know every word.
If you didn't get out the car busting people's windows out and just really
Yes.
manifesting to the nth degree.
So through the years, like I listened to her song Masterpiece every single day. It's been getting me through. So when she, you know, came out with Lost One, this most recent single for Hotels, I was just like, oh, this is gonna be so good. I felt like that one song touched about like my whole marriage in the 3 to 4 minutes that the song, you know, aired essentially. The album talks about sexuality, about, you know, being open with wanting money, wanting success. And also, I think one of my favorite songs on the album is Girl Like Me, which essentially is like, how is it that a normal girl like me who wants to do everything I can, why is it that y'all want the hose? Why not? You know, and I guess I might as well just be one if that's what it takes for you to, you know, embrace me or want me.
I actually had a guy break up with me and I started laughing. And he goes, why are you laughing? I said, because basically, if I was a stripper on aid with kids, you felt that you could take care of me. But it's okay, I get that. You know,
Right.
So yes, I think a lot of sisters can feel this.
Definitely. And I mean, to be even more honest about it, he made his choice about them as well. And it's just like, I don't understand. I worship the ground you walk on, and you still want someone who's like worth 99 cents? Really? Oh, okay, that's fine. I'll take it.
Bust the windows out your car.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is such a wonderful way to wrap. You have a poem that you would like to share with us, and then we're going to get into the questions from your many, many fans that joined us this evening.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Let's see. I was so indecisive on which one to pick, honestly, because they were so organic.
Mm-hmm. Do you write your poems that way mostly, just as the situation unfolds, you start writing, or is it something that you think about, reflect, come back, add different elements that also relate to the situation in the poetry? I
actually haven't written since maybe like childhood. Mm-hmm. I still suffer from some crazy imposter syndrome. So I'm not sure if it's good enough, but when the time came to write, you know, bios about the work and talking about what's important about it and what are keynote figures, most of it didn't show up. I couldn't, you know, be an academic when it came to presenting. Yes. I could only write what I felt when I looked at it. And it turned out being a poem. Let's see. So I think I am going to read from Verge of Confinement, which is in the first room.
Don't you love VR?
I do.
So fantastic.
This was so amazing to make. You have no idea, but I'm sure you do. It was great. It was absolutely great. Okay. So this piece describes the moment that I had before I cut my hair. Mm-hmm. For a long time, my hair was my identity. So, yes. Okay. Pressure. Place me in a jar of dark, kinky curls. Drown me in a vat full of liquid judgment. I'm fat. I'm not good enough. I will die alone. And the only thing that helps me get out is my hair. Why is it so hard to let go of something you love when you never loved it to begin with? This is unnecessary. No longer do I wish to fit in your box. You will not place me in a jar. Breaking point. Release.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tijera. I can't tell you when I've had a more enjoyable afternoon talking to someone. This was really wonderful. And I want to thank Dinah, and I want to thank the HSCC for allowing me to be here this evening. We're not done yet. We got to talk to the folks in the audience and hear what they have to say to Tijera. So this is your time, everybody. Let's start with the first person with their hand up, and that is Tierney Hawkins.
I just want to say you're amazing. That is all. Just amazing.
Thank you, friend.
Who else has their hand up out there? I'm going to encourage folks to just kind of throw the hand up and start talking.
Comments are welcome as well. Comments or questions.
Jay Sean, hi,
Yes.
welcome. Tell us a little about
How you
who
doing?
you are and where you're from.
Oh, my name is Jay Sean. I'm from South Central. I'm an illustrator. I went to school with Tijera. We have, what do we have? Like the only all Black gallery show.
Two.
Yeah, too. Like everyone can just. But yeah. So my question is about the recent the piece with your husband, and it was y'all on your wedding, and then the other version of you was kind of taking it back, and you didn't you understood the situation, but in retrospect. So my question is, how do you honestly portray the day that you had during your wedding, and the day in which you actually remember on the day, like it was a loving and a beautiful day, but you also balance that out with honoring the version of you today who might despise the idea of even thinking of that moment? Like, how do you honor both versions of yourself?
I think the hardest thing is making the work reflect my life and my life reflect the work without making it seem like a gimmick, because it's really my life. So we are amicable for the sake of the day, for the sake of the vow, for the sake of the meaning of what it even stands for, to say that you're married to a person. And I know that in itself is really hard to do based off of what I've heard from other married people. There's some that are like, when we're done, if they're divorced, that's it. They're, Satan's spawn, and there's no way they can connect. In respecting the day and respecting the vow, I'm choosing to be amicable, as hard as that may be, and still supporting him. And I ask for the same of him, but I'm only going to do my part. And then as far as for what I now know, not walking around with, sheep's clothing over my eyes anymore, no more wool over my eyes. I have to respect my boundaries, and I can still love him. I don't have to like him. I can love him from a distance. So I'll just keep doing both.
Thank you. O'Shea, thank you for being so patient. And if you still have a question, please go ahead and ask Tijera. O'Shea, are you still there? Okay, we'll go from Robert Waters, who decided to ask his online. Robert, I want to go back to your question. I just missed it. It just popped up. Let's see if we can get it up here. Robert, yes, he asked, do you think schools will begin to add Black artists to the curriculum? Growing up in the other century, all I ever saw was just white artists and only European art, maybe some African art, okay, and possibly some American art.
That's the thing. I don't think they will. I don't think just yet. I feel like even now with the tide of, like for 2020, a lot of people made it seem like, oh my gosh, like we're protesting and what's this brand new reason? It's been here. It has been here. The 50s was not that long ago. The 60s was not that long ago. We're still talking about the same thing, but people are choosing to pay attention to it. So I feel like to put it in schools means that you're accepting that it's happened. So before we can even talk about art, let's talk about how my ancestors were stolen from their homes and then separated from their loved ones, forced to have kids, separated from them, and pretty much built this country. How about we talk about that first, when it comes to like attacking or even confronting schools on the things that they need to talk about. So before they can accept even seeing my body in a textbook, which, ooh, I can't wait for the moment. I hope I can live to see it. I absolutely think they need to get full history in first, and not this kitschy, like, oh, Africans live in huts, like most of African art is actually built up of their surroundings as well. Like if they live in a deserted area, most of their artwork is their home. It's built to protect them from the elements. If they're in a, more downcast, wet area, it will provide, their materials will relate to that background. So respecting that, not making it seem like it's less than because it's different. All of these aspects have to be put in before even considering, oh, let's put the art in. Because the reason why I think the work is so important is because it's absolutely acknowledging that it's beautiful because it's different, and that's just how it's supposed to be, instead of like, oh, it's exactly like this, but Black.
Next, we have Elizabeth. Elizabeth, thank you for your patience.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
First of all, thank you. It is so great to hear from you on this. And I just having studied art history, I love how you're using all of these art historical references in like really nuanced and powerful ways. But there's a question that always comes up for me when an artist is making work that is about their own trauma or some sort of collective trauma. I once tried to write a short story, even though I don't write fiction, about being in an abusive relationship and what that experience was like. And I found that if, after working on it for a little while, if I was going to keep going, I think it would have like completely pulled me under. And I realized I can't handle this. And so I'm curious, do you ever have moments where you feel like making the work is bordering on too much? And do you have like a kind of emotional regulation part of your practice? Are there things you do to kind of help yourself through that process? I would love to hear about that.
Absolutely. Honestly, every single piece was okay, this is a too close for comfort thing. And suffering from anxiety, absolutely. It would get to a point where my nail biting, it would start to get too close for comfort. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. And I'm not sure if it's the best way to navigate it, but I would leave it alone and walk away from it, focus on something else. But then I would remember, because in the back of my mind, I feel like the way I work, even with paintings, I have to finish. It's either I start it or I don't start it. So the same with the photography. So even if it was really painful, I would do it in increments and go, okay, I know it is really hard to put myself like that. I don't know what other people are going to think. Maybe I should ask a friend. It's time to leave it alone when I start to think about that. Let me just go back to doing, something else. Let me pay attention to my dogs. Let me, wash some clothes in a couple days and then come back and go, okay, this is hard, but I know what I want it to look like when it's done. So until it looks like that, I'm just going to do what I have to. So yeah. And I mean, it helps to reflect with the people with your work just to see how they would respond to it, because that's always helpful. When I was in school, we didn't really have in-process critiques. to be honest, college art critiques, everyone kind of just sits in a room and stares at each other until it's like, hey, you need to talk or you're not getting a grade. But if you have a network of people who are just willing to tell you like, it's okay if you think it sucks, we still love you, or it's okay if this is really hard to do, you need that support that'll help you keep going. So yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad that other people are better at managing that than I am, because the work that you've made is just, it's really powerful.
Thank you. You've got this.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Kelly, thanks for being patient.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Williams, for your wonderful work. And thank you, the Dinah Polanitz and the rest of the curators for putting this on, especially during this time in our history. And I just want to say that I like how you decidedly, as we refer to these pieces that you put yourself in as the classics, I said as it's referred to, I just appreciate you putting yourself in those works and just for people to look at you. So that to me is just, I mean, I'm so glad Dinah saw your work, because it really speaks to me in so many ways, and to confront what we refer to as classics. And I'm definitely speaking to the choir here when we talk about what's classics, and you go to art school and you find out there's a whole lot of stuff out there that we never even knew. So I do appreciate that. Now, my question is, with your piece, I really love seeing you hold the hoop earrings and how you confronted that whole thing. It was lovely. And there were some pieces, and you might have spoken to this, about that seemed a little fractured, like those double images. And it seemed to be especially true when your husband, or I know you're going through some things, whatever you're calling him right now. Is that intentional, the kind of the fracture that it seemed to be in the areas that he was present? And again, I don't want to generalize your work, I just, from what I've seen.
Yes, I found that it actually was becoming intentional. And going back to the previous question, I did seek counsel with some friends to go, does this look right? Like, am I like, does this not look like I'm doing this unintentionally? Because it really was a duality. Like, to make it even more plain in life and then in art, like I said, in a 24-hour period, my, I guess, whatever he is, husband, spouse, whatever, one half, we're laughing and joking and kicking it. And then someone didn't wash the dishes and it goes like complete split. And when I thought about the work, there were moments where, you know, I had these pieces of like, we should be solid, very clear, you know, defined, this is what it is, he's asleep and I'm awake. But I had done multiple poses where, and all of those were the same poses that I had in this argument, where I'm just so frustrated. And I realized, like, even the same in the argument, you don't go through a very like, I'm upset that you did this, I'm sorry, you're forgiven. There's a lot of up and down, and you did this, and if we're playing dirty, then, you know, it goes the wrong way as well. So putting it into that moment of like a blur, a lot of it is what this year has been, or this past year has been. It's the quickest year I'd ever experienced, both the quickest and the longest. So
yeah.
Yes.
We have time for one more question, and we're going to wrap it up with Dinah, but we're going to ask Destiny to carry out this Q&A for us. Thank you, Destiny.
Thank you. Hey, T. So one thing that I always liked about your art was you were always so candid about everything. And I remember one of the first times I saw some of your art, and I saw that you weren't shy about like using your own body. Like, that's one thing that kind of took me aback. I'm like, wow, like she's going all in with it, with her art, you know? So the one piece that I enjoyed so much was and please forgive me because I don't remember the name of it, but it was the one where T was talking about like the dreams that she was having about her trauma, and just showing her trying to escape the room. I particularly felt that one because since COVID has started, I've experienced similar traumas myself. And I feel like the fact that you're able to go ahead and put yourself on display like that, it kind of gives me strength to figure out how I can cope, with my own traumas. So one question that I do have for you is, how do you think that your art helps you cope with it? I guess permanently, or is it only temporary? Do you feel like you have to keep creating more art to aid you in, I guess, processing your traumas? Because I know you said like you did, you created some art in the past for your therapies, and you just kind of threw them all away. So I wondered how your current art helps you.
It definitely helps. I feel like after I've made it, I no longer see the piece. So the works from 2018, I don't really see the piece anymore. I only see what I felt when I made it. So it's a huge jump from looking at the photo called Danya Jones and going, oh, okay, I can immediately feel that I'm upset versus, okay, that was a choice, or this color, or this and that. So I'm sure that going forward, as I make more work and have more shows and things like that, I'm only going to see the emotion and hopefully look at it like a moment in my life, and make a catalog of it, and to be able to tell a true story of the moments of, okay, she was here, she felt this, and now she's here and she feels this. And eventually, hopefully be able to connect back to my past self through work, like advice to your younger self, or, a letter to your future self. Let's see, I don't plan on throwing anything away. As I learn more and more about Photoshop and Lightroom and how to edit and things like that, I feel like I'm kind of forced to save it. And if anything, if I don't make it into a piece, I'll just have a whole cache of poses and work that never was finished or anything like that. But so far, I think every piece that I've put out or even made, I'm trying to completely see it through.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Destiny. This has really been an honor. I really want to thank you, Tijera. And now I am going to toss it to Dinah to take us out.
I just want to ask T one more question. I just want you to tell us, what have you unlearned through this experience with us? I'm always curious with artists who work with us and exhibit with us. I want to know what you learned and unlearned through this experience.
I am so grateful for you. I am so grateful for you. And I'm such a crybaby, so I'm trying to like not cry, but I'm so grateful for this. What I learned, which I was so surprised at, is I'm actually an artist. I'm an artist. Like, my work is real, like, and it's doing everything that I wanted it to do successfully. Like, all of it, it's doing it, and I'm amazed. It's crazy to say that I've wanted this literally since I was like five, saying it like, like it's a brush of the shoulder type thing. And no, this is my life. This is the way I live. I'm so amazed. I'm learning that it is okay. It's okay to live through the ugly, and it's definitely okay to put that in your work, because I was afraid. I'm sure you know. I was like, oh, what does this look like? What are they gonna think? And you're like, screw what they think. That's another thing I'm learning, outside of art as well. Just to be like, screw what they think. I think I look good. I think this work is good. I think it means something. And sure enough, people think the same. Unlearning, definitely the things that I thought were law, the things that I thought were how it was. I thought I got through my degree by the skin of my teeth, and I met every, I checked all the boxes, and that was what a college experience was supposed to be like, being a Black woman at a PWI. It was not. I need to get my money back. I need to, challenge what I learned. And the same when it comes to marriage. Like, yes, I can be in love. Yes, I can be excited about, the opportunity I was given, but that doesn't mean I have to take it. That didn't mean I had to take it, and I don't regret it, but in accepting the reality of when a person tells you one thing and shows you another, you need to believe what they're showing you the first time they do it, instead of going, oh, maybe someday he'll learn how to fix it, or maybe someday they'll respect my boundaries. From day one, have that. And it's okay if you're still learning your own boundaries. But yeah, in total, again, I'm so grateful for you. So grateful. I never would have imagined.
Well, I'm grateful for you. It's like, I'm grateful for anyone. I literally learn from every person that exhibits with us, because I truly believe art is personal and communal and universal. And when I saw your work, I saw myself. I saw my experience. I felt my emotions. I can respect that, because like you said, like, if you don't feel something, you don't take away anything from the work, like, what is it doing for you? It's not for me. And I'm very humble and grateful for this experience, to just like learn with you, but also just like, we were like a women-led exhibition.
I know.
Like, it was all women. Like, we had Alana Aratam, a photographer. She did a portfolio review with T, Delana, Margaret, Astrid, me, Andrea,
yes,
now Robin. And I'm so blessed that we were able to practice this intersectional experience together. It was very experimental. Like, what is it like when all women of all different races come together in unity and like have these honest conversations and critiques and get shit done?
right.
And I'm very proud of the work. It's very cohesive. If you don't live here, you can always check out our website, make an appointment. It would just be you and your guests for that 30 minutes during the week when you make your appointment. I think you should give yourself the opportunity to like drive down here and bring lunch or have lunch down here and check out the gallery and see the work in person and feel it in person. It's a great interaction to have, especially during COVID. It's amazing how we're all separated right now, but there's this very communal emotion to have empathy for each other and listen to each other's stories and protect each other. And so this whole year for Hill Street is about that. And I'm very grateful for T. She's going to be in the gallery tomorrow. So don't be afraid to like make an appointment if you want to meet her in person and talk about a piece that you felt and have that conversation for that 30 minutes. Come through, we're here. A lot of the pieces are not this, all the pieces are not the same size as the virtual tour. We use the VR as an opportunity to imagine if we had mad money. Like, if I had like $10,000, what would I print? That's what we did. How big would it be, So, take that time and look through the exhibit, read the titles in each poem that correlates to the titles. There's also a part of the virtual reality exhibit where there's outdoor panels with all the names that we lost to like police violence. So there's, that moment of silence that you can participate in online. Please just check us out. I'm really grateful for this exhibit. We have a lot of work to do in the next 2 months with T. So this is not the last. If you haven't, I think we have your emails because you guys all register, and so you guys would get all the updates, whatever that we have planned in the future. I'm very grateful for everyone attending. So everyone have a good night. Be safe.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tijera. Wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Good work. Good work, team. Thank you.
Everyone.
Deanna, Astrid, Margaret, thank you.
Bye,
Much
Robin.
appreciated.
Bye, Tijera.
Bye, Tijera.
Hi,
We
Ava.
love you.
Bonnie. Hi, Jasmine.
Bye.
Hi,
Tijera.
We miss you. There she is. Say hi.
Love you,
Hi,
Tijera.
TJ.
Love
Oh,
you.
Uncle Kelly.
See, Uncle Kelly's here.
Oh my God. We love you so much. We're so proud of you, baby. So proud of you. Let it go, honey. Release that. We love you so much. It's okay, honey. It's okay to cry. We'll see you. God's willing. We'll see you. Okay. You come to Arizona or we'll come to you.
Or she can just come to us. We don't got to go anywhere.
I want to go back to California.
There's Avani.
It sounds like my daughter. Sounds like my teenager.
Oh, we love you so much. Oh, look what you did. Oh. Yeah, it's okay. Here, get off. All right, say bye to Tijera.
Bye-bye. Bye, Tijera.
Thank you.